Yeah, about that guy. God, it's like me and the catcher's mitt. But anyway, did you notice that all he does is mimic the Young Turks?
I did, but I looked at...
Almost show for show.
I looked into that a little bit because you asked me. You said there was that white gun nut video.
Yes.
On David Patman.
And what I asked you to look up was, when they did that show on the Young Turks, what was the image that they showed on the screen?
The same image.
The hillbilly. And when they were doing the presentation, you still didn't see it. Did you watch the whole video?
No, I just looked it up.
They show a bullet. There's a bullet on the screen. The whole part of the show. They show the crazy guy's picture that they got out there, and then they show a bullet. The story is about a BB gun. It's propaganda. So that means it's anti-Second Amendment propaganda. They're anti-bullet, anti-gun, anti-BB gun. A BB gun is a scary gun. These assholes are talking about cutting down a BB gun. Maybe the barrel was chopped. They think it's a gun. They're terrified of it. Or they're not. But they want to get rid of them. And you gotta ask yourself, follow the money. Why would they say that? Why would any guy that takes his time to make his own homemade YouTube channel, you're pro-gay. I get that. You're pro-gay. But as a gay guy, don't you want a goddamn gun? Nope. They're liberal gays. So where does all that come from? And I'll tell you something else. This is where I was going to bring up. Propaganda. Now, there was a comment about the Navy on that one.
Yes,
there was a pro-gay video. You got a lot of ratted pro-gay people making pretty harsh comments. And one of them, they said what?
One of them, they said, in the olden days, in the British Navy, if two men were to have been found to have gay sex, they would have been hanged.
That's correct. So, what I want to share with you with that comment, because look at it at face value. It's kind of like DDT. DDT in the 70s made some very thin eggs. They took a lot of pictures of eagles' nests with thin eggs. The public was outraged. They outlawed DDT. What they didn't say was they were this close to wiping out malaria, but instead they stopped spraying DDT right at the last second, and malaria made a huge comeback, and it's killed about 32 million people since then. So because of the thin eggs for the birds, 32 million people died. There's no eagle on the planet that's worth 32 million people.
Right.
Okay, so let me share this with you. Yes, it's true that the Royal Navy would hang you if they caught two men engaged in sex. So what you do is you could go on a gay, pro-gay site and you would say, hey, did you know that the Eagle Navy used to hang you if you were gay? See how bad that sounds? And then David Chapman and YT and Senk and all the liberal pro-homosexual, and then all the way to the extreme to the pro-homosexual mafia, like David Chapman, they're going to say, see, the Royal Navy is evil because they hanged gay guys. Next clip. And you're going to have 1,000 people respond saying, yeah, they were evil for killing gay guys in that Navy. But the other half of the story that you don't know, when that rule was actually applied in the British Navy, that was in response to a reporter that traveled on a Navy ship. To his shock and horror of what was going on these ships, they were convicts, slaves, homosexuals, and boys were on those ships. Rampant homosexual rape going on, and they had this thing called cabin boys that one very esteemed commander just said they're used as alternate females. So when this reporter went on board these British Navy ships and saw that every officer on that ship had his own personal cabin boy and was sodomizing them, he went back and told the Queen and posted a big newspaper column, and it spread all over the place, and people were outraged. And they were prisoners and convicts and convicted homosexuals. You had criminal types. There were rapes going on. They actually had galleys where men rowed oars to move the ships around while other ships in the very beginning had steam engines. They were still using oarmen, slaves, convicts. You have 10 guys raping some guy. Well, that was also reported in the news by a French reporter right around the same time. And there was an uproar about how these oarmen were being treated. And so the simplest way to get them to stop kidnapping young boys and sodomizing them was to say there was a death penalty. And because of that rule, I mean, thousands of kids and people, it changed everything.
Right.
But see, you can present it in a show and be snarky and clever and present it as though hanging gay people is a bad thing. Well, at the time, it almost stopped that practice entirely. So there's two sides to the coin. And I think it's important, you can't say the other side of the coin without being called a homophobe. What are your thoughts about all that? That's deep, Sam. Deep. This is why no one comments on the channel. They don't know what to say to me. Let me explain something else, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this right, but I think people should Google, YouTube, find Patrick Henry's thing, and read Patrick Henry's book. I really liked it. He's talking about Fukushima, and I wanted to bring this up because it kind of tied into what we've been talking about today, and that is, you can clearly see how there are levels to the propaganda. How you have like main street media, and then you have alternate media. And in alternate media, you have your first-run guys. You know, you've got your Alex Jones types, and then they go down, 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 and you got your Mark Dice, and then you got your, it just goes down, 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 all these little archetypes. It's like there's different levels. And when you see Sinks, the Young Turks, right? They put a show out. I'm pretty sure they're from RT. That's Russian television. That's another thing I see in comments, people saying commie doesn't exist anymore. It's a 1950s. No, they're still commies.
Well, did you see, I did a little research on the Young Turks, because the Young Turks actually started out, it was Sink, and he was on something called Current TV, and he was on Current TV, and then Current TV was sold to the Al Jazeera network, and so his show was canceled. So he went on to this other endeavor, being the Young Turks, and it turned into the Young Turks Network. They actually have a news show, they have sports shows, they have weekend commentary, and they are partner channels with David Pakman.
Yeah, now, just recently.
Yeah, recently they took on David Pakman.
The gay Jewish guy, anti-Second Amendment guy. Did you, I asked you, I don't think you did, I can tell by talking to you, maybe you did. Did you look up what the meaning of Young Turks is?
I did.
Okay, what is that?
Aren't you proud of me?
I am. It's a tough one. It's obscure, folks.
It's a reformist or rebellious member of an institution, movement, or political party, usually liberal, progressive, political, or social commentary. Yeah,
that sounds good. That's very flowery. Let me put it in real language for you. What happened was the Young Turks disarmed the Armenians and genocided them. That's the Second Amendment.
That's the reformist.
So they're Second Amendment. They're gun grabbers. And then this whole gay agenda. Once again, I would go back to that book that I saw just recently, and it's not his book, but he's referring to the Articles of Zion. And some of the goals in there for infiltration and psyops was to fund the opposition and to make tiered things. So in other words, like Alex Jones would say something, and then his underlings below that would parrot that back. And then paid opposition would say things back so that it appears there's a counter-argument, and then people even below that would just say it's all tinfoil. I mean, 9/11, for example. The endless talk of the detonation devices or the beam weapon and the way that the buildings fell and the footprint and whether there were really planes and whether they really crashed, and all these unknowns 12 years later, we're still arguing. People are still arguing the truth, or they're never going to find out. It's like JFK. It's happened so long ago, they're never going to figure out the truth, right?
Right.
But what do we know? Why do we see this is the thing? Distraction. Over here, look over here. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. There's two things about that I've forgotten. What was I just talking about?
9/11 and the towers and your two.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's difficult being me. I have to keep a lot on my RAM space to do the show. And that is, what's the guy's name that I always say I'm going to make the character out of? Donald Rumsfeld. In his sworn statement, and in also video footage, the number 2 guy, where America's under attack, the number 2 guy, the first airplane hits, what does he do? Continues with a CIA briefing. The second plane hits, the third plane hits the Pentagon, where he is. What is the second in charge? I think he's second or third in charge of this country. What does he do? He goes out front to carry people in stretchers. It's all on record. That's his record. So that's his responsibility. No spooky conspiracy. Donald Rumsfeld, own testimony and video footage, the photo op of him carrying stretchers out of the Pentagon into ambulances. Even Donald Rumsfeld's pitching in the emergency effort. Instead of being in the control room directing this country. Kind of goes back to George Bush being told that one of the towers blew up, sitting there reading an upside-down goat book to these little kids and not stopping. He looked shocked, though.
The look on his face.
It was like an actor. He was very good.
All the blood drained out of his face, and then he finished what he was doing and excused himself quickly.
So, I'll give you another thing. This is where I was leading with this. There's all this talk about Alex Jones being Bill Hicks. And I actually send this shout-out to, Sherry Lee's channel, the chick that's empathing Marilyn Monroe. They've been putting out a lot of videos saying that this guy, Monsanto or whatever, is George Kinnison, or what's the guy? Sam Kinison, and that Alex Jones is Bill Hicks. And, I don't know what to think about that. But I looked at one, and I got to admit, Bill Hicks and Alex Jones have 2 little moles on their neck that are fucking identical. I mean, no shit. And his bottom teeth really fucking look similar. Holy Christ, he's kind of got a crookedy fang, the fang teeth, The incisors, they're crooked in just the right way. And both of them match. The rest, but man, pretty convincing.
What's the point of doing that?
Exactly. My appeal to them, if any one of their fans hear this show, you can let them know. I'm not bagging on them, but I think that the truther movement is being bogged down and distracted by the gay movement, so we have to fight that. They always say they're fighting. They're fighting a war against discrimination, No, that's not it. We're past that. This is something more. Something's going on. And the fact that it's mainstream. That's mainstream. So that means that's what the New World Order, that's the guys in control. This ain't an accident. They're pro-gay. That can't be good. My intuition says, that can't be good. And so someone has to counter it. But by the same token, like those dudes on The Soprano, as a straight man, I don't really give a fuck. But as a political commentator, I gotta say something about it. And you should know, this David Pakman guy, he's pro-gay. He's a militant pro-gay.
I always laugh when you say that because when I hear the words gay mafia or militant gay, I start thinking about their uniforms.
It'll happen. You watch. Don't think it won't. And they like to bring up the fact that those guys from 300, the Spartans,
right,
they were gay and stuff. Well, 1, they were finally destroyed, and 2, they were like psychotic murdering machines.
Right.
They didn't do art, and they didn't do math, and their cities were barren. There weren't really statues or paintings. I'm telling you, they were ruthless. So if that's who you want to emulate, once again, it's a war. It's a battle. It's a battle against, It's the same thing that Muslims will say. It's a battle against them. Equal rights discrimination is rampant to the point we can't talk about it. It's not PC. And, if being gay is a choice, or being gay is the way you were born, or that's just how it is, and you deserve civil rights, then so do psychopaths. Think about it. What is the difference? Say you have a psychopathic boss. Why doesn't he get federal protection, civil rights protection? So even though he's a psychopath, you can't turn him down for jobs. You can't fire him because he's got schizophrenia either, because he got civil rights. I mean, that's my whole point. When is this ever going to end? It's dividing the country, and there are ways like I said with the Navy story, that you can flip real news on its head and make something sound horrible when it might actually turn out to be a good thing. This show's really a downer.
So